Welcome to the AFR Saints channel, where we provide you daily content on your favorite team, the New Orleans Saints. Do us a favor and hit that subscribe button. Be sure to leave your comments below and smash that like button. Who dat? I have, for many weeks, talked about my excitement and, quite honestly, okay with the New Orleans Saints using the 9th pick on a quarterback. And I've talked a lot about that now. And I wanted to give a contrasting opinion from someone whose opinion I trust and respect very much. That's Jeff Duncan, NOLA.com, Times-Picayune. Good enough to join us here for a couple minutes. He's got a column up today basically talking about why people like me are stupid. Jeff, thanks for the time. How are you, man?
Hey, Matt, I'm doing good. And I don't think I used those exact words, did
I? No, I did. It's for emphasis. It works on radio. Okay. Why no quarterback at 9?
Well, I just think in talking to people around the league that I trust, a lot of different teams that I value their opinion, there's just no quarterback in this draft that I feel is worthy of it, unless you were going to get Cam Moore. I don't think that's going to happen. It's not a great year. You know, it's a very similar. You look at some of these past years. I think of the Kenny Pickett, Malik Willis year for quarterbacks. Really, none of those guys, Desmond Ridder, none of them panned out. It feels a lot like that year, and I just don't think the organization at this point is in position to gamble at number 9. I don't have a problem with taking a developmental guy, which is what most of these quarterback prospects, you talk to NFL teams, that's the way they view them. I don't have a problem taking one in a later round, but I think number 9, where this team is, 5-12, aging, bloated roster, they just can't afford to strike out with a Blaine Gabbert, somebody like that. That miss, I think, would really set this organization back. It's not like I've had a lot of fans, a lot of people on social media say, well, you know, they gambled on Davenport in 2018. It's completely different circumstances with the organization. I mean, that was worth the gamble then. They were 13-3. Drew Brees was still playing at a very high level. They looked at that as a smart, calculated gamble. It might push them over the top and get them a Super Bowl. That's not where they're at now, and I just don't think they can afford to miss, especially after the last few drafts haven't really produced very many impact players.
Okay, so why can't they afford to miss at quarterback?
I don't think you can afford to miss on anybody at 9, whether it's a quarterback or anybody. I think you take your best player, you stay true to your board. And look, in talking to these teams around the league, no one has anyone close to the top 10 except for Cam Moore. Nobody. Like almost every team I talked to said their next rated guy, Shedeur Sanders, was like 44th. So I guess you could argue, and I know quarterbacks get drafted higher than their grade. I know that's something that happens regularly in the league. I just don't think they can afford to reach. There's just too many instances in the past where we've seen that burning teams. I used that in my column. I mean, look how many of these teams have reached and forced it because they felt like they had to have a guy as opposed to getting the guy. And look, it might work out. I'm not saying it won't. Maybe Jackson Dart is the guy. Maybe he develops into the guy. It could happen, but I think you're really rolling the dice at a time when you really can't afford to.
Jeff, do you have any idea what the Saints think about Shedeur Sanders?
No, I don't. They've kept their cards close to the vest. That's why I think there's just a lot of speculation running rampant right now about what their intentions are. I think that's what happens this time of year, Matt, with the gulf between pro day workouts and the draft. There's like a 2 to 3 week window, and we're all in the business of filling airtime and newspaper content, right? And it fills that void with speculation, and then it just takes on a life of its own. And I feel like that's what's happening right now. And if the Saints take Shedeur Sanders or Jackson Dart at number 9, I think it's going to be fascinating to see how it plays out. I'm not going to be the one out there saying, it won't be fun to watch, but I don't think you make draft picks on what's going to spark life in the organization. I think that's fueling a lot of the fans' discontent right now, and I get it. This team has been not very successful and fairly boring the last few years. People are dying for some type of hope, some type of excitement, but that's an adrenaline shot that's going to wear off very quickly if this quarterback turns out to be Trey Lance and they're not winning. Then what have you got?
Could be Josh Allen. That's always the thing about taking the shot, which is interesting, Jeff, because the way, I know you phrased it this way, it's been 53 years, right? I mean, they've done it once ever. And my contention is kind of, not that I'm necessarily bullish on Shedeur, right? I mean, I like Shedeur probably more than other people do, but like I'm not pounding the table like this is the next Joe Burrow or whatever. But at some point in this franchise's future, they've got to write a quarterback's name on the card in round one and hand it to the commissioner.
Yeah.
When do they do that, Jeff?
I'm with you on that. I totally agree. I think I wrote a column a few weeks ago that almost seems contradictory to what I just wrote this week, saying they got to have an after Derek plan, right? I agree. The whole mission right now should be finding the guy after Derek Carr, and whether that's this year or next year, I think you don't force it. I think that's the worst thing you can do is force it. I think you build the roster and then try and get a quarterback next year when hopefully they're in a better position to get a guy that could be the answer. Having said that, I mean, I'm not totally against Shedeur. I think he's a very interesting, promising prospect, but there's a lot of mixed opinions on him around the league. A lot of people that do not think he's going to translate well to the NFL game. There's some people that are very high on him. I just think it's a gamble they can't afford to make.
Jeff Duncan is with us, NOLA.com, Time-Picayune. Get him on Twitter, @JeffDuncan_. As best you can tell, Jeff, where does like the Kellen Moore of it all fit in here, right? Because this is a guy who played quarterback, is a quarterback coach, offensive-minded coach, who's going to want his own guy eventually. Like he inherited Derek Carr. Like what as best you could tell, how does Kellen Moore factor into that decision this year about whether or not they take a quarterback at 9 or anywhere in the draft?
Yeah, it's a great question, and I think we don't really know. Reporters that were at the NFL owners meetings asked him directly about what he's looking for, and he was pretty cagey about it. He spoke in cliches and very vague answers. But what I would say to you, Matt, is one thing I know about Mickey Loomis, the one thing, and I know he's under fire right now, and probably rightfully so by a lot of segments of the fan base, he will get the quarterback that Kellen Moore wants. He will support his head coach and get him his guy. There's absolutely no doubt. I've never heard him from anyone that's coached with him or under him that's felt like, oh, no, I want you to take this guy. If Kellen Moore likes Shedeur Sanders or Jackson Dart or somebody, they're going to take him. They'll find a way to get him. That's one thing Mickey Loomis is very good at, is getting his head coach the guy he wants.
It's a very interesting perspective. If they do, so if you're not okay with a quarterback at 9, where do you draw the line, Jeff, where you say, okay, at this point, I'm all right taking a shot?
Look, I would not be opposed maybe trading back into the bottom of round 1 just because you could get a 5-year, you get that extra year with your quarterback. I understand the logic, Matt. I think that the logic makes a lot of sense, right? Carr's going to be the guy. You sit your quarterback of the future behind him a year, especially a guy like Jackson Dart, who everyone says is going to need time to develop and learn an NFL progression read system. He didn't do that in Lane Kiffin's offense. He's going to need time to adjust. And then you've got the rookie contract. We all know the Saints' salary cap issues. You've got a rookie contract, and you could build. I get the logic of all that. It makes perfect sense. I just don't think this is the year that you're going to find that guy. Maybe I'm wrong. I mean, guys do develop, but there's not too many. When you start looking at some of these past years, I know last year a lot of people are saying, well, Bo Nix was not that well thought of. Well, he was in Denver. Denver had him number 2 in the entire quarterback class behind Jaden Daniels, above Caleb Williams, above Drake May. I don't think anyone is having that type of opinion on these quarterbacks. I think we're trying to force things because the Saints desperately need an answer there.
Jeff, do you think Derek Carr is the Saints quarterback in 2026?
No.
So do you think the 2026 quarterback is currently on the Saints roster?
No. I think they'll solve that after next season. And look, this thing could go really south, right? I mean, we don't know. I mean, this thing could bottom out next year, Matt, and they're picking number one. And I don't think Arch Manning is going to come out. From what I've been told, he's going to play more than 1 year at Texas, but we all know things change. But then you're looking at something like that, and then you've got it solved. But that's a long way off, and a lot can happen.
He is Jeff Duncan, NOLA.com, Times-Picayune. Got a good column up today. Why the Saints should make it 54 years without drafting a quarterback in the first round. Last and only, of course, is Archie Manning back in 1971. Get him on Twitter at @JeffDuncan_. We appreciate the time always, man. Thanks, Jeff.
Hey, Matt. Thanks for having me on, buddy. I appreciate you.
Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact. And be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.